Hello everyone, thank you for joining in today. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. My name is NIKITA TIBDIWAL and I'm a lead data scientist at Salesforce. Well, having said all of that, let's put everything into action using a business use case. Through this use case, you will see how we'll transform a not so appealing chart into a story that will drive the audiences and that will compel your audiences to take an action. We will be leveraging whatever we have learned in the last 30 to 40 minutes for this purpose. The scenario that we're going to discuss here is a new product launch. Sainsbury's is one of the largest retailers supermarket chain in UK, and it is now launching its own label of yogurts. Before launching the product into the market, they have collected the feedback on the product tasting from 100 consumers. Now, as a data analyst, as a data partner, you need to present the data insights to the product team. Now, since the goal of this exercise is to demonstrate how we can use the concept above, we have kept the scope of the data to a small subset, and it is in the anonymized format. Step 1: understanding the context. Let's ask ourselves the fundamental questions of who, what, and why. Who is the consumer of the data insights? In this case, since the product tasting would affect how the product needs to be developed, any kind of changes that needs to be done, the results of the tasting exercise needs to be shared with the head of the product development. He or she will be the one who will take a decision on whether we should go ahead and make the changes as per the recommendation, or no, we're just good and we can go ahead with the product as is. The next question is, what do you want your stakeholders to do? We need to communicate with the product the things that we have learned during the data analysis and what are the actions that they should take based on the discoveries that we have made. Subtle changes, but they can have a major impact on the go-to-market strategy. That is, empowering the users to understand the consumer sentiments and implementing the data-driven recommendations. I'll fast forward a bit and assume that you have completed the data collection, cleanup, and analysis step. Let's look at the summarized data here. It says that there are 100 people who have told how they felt about the Sainsbury yogurt on various parameters: the thickness, creaminess, sweetness, amount of fruit, yogurt, and so on and so forth. For each of these, they can tell whether it was not enough, just about right, or too much. Notice the efforts that are going in consuming this information in the tabular format. And if you're like me, you're scanning the rows and the columns, reading the entire table, mentally trying to hold up all the numbers and comparing them each other. Oh, that's really taxing process, and it will take a lot of time to come to conclusion. And most important, this is a very small data frame. In most of the business problems, there is a lot of data to understand and disseminate. So anything that we can make to anything we can do to make these numbers visual can make it quickly accessible, which brings us to the step number 2, that is visualize. Let's start with the basic chart, which is like a line chart. Is that right choice? Well, that does not make sense because it is trying to establish certain connections between the various categories, which is absolutely not correct. So instead of randomly choosing the charts, let's use the framework that we learned in the previous section: question, goal, and framework. What is the question here? The question here is, how is the feedback on the various categories of the yogurt comparing to each other on the rating criteria? What is the goal? The goal is to compare the values, that is the percentage of responders, between these nominal categories, looking at the composition by the rating criteria. And what would be the outcome? Yes, you got it right. It would be a bar chart. Well, not really a grouped bar chart, because we wanted to see the composition, and we all know that the data is adding to 100%, so we could better leverage a stacked bar chart. So that's a visual that you choose here, and it is definitely making it easier to consume the data We can improvise it further by just making it into horizontal bar charts so that the labels get a more real estate. And that's it. Most of the time we end our efforts on the visual part here. But really speaking, is this visualization intuitive enough to provide the recommendation? Well, I think we can do a lot. We can do more to improve it. Let's move on and follow the step number 3, which is declutter. This is the visual that we had from the previous step. We will remove anything that is ornamental and unnecessary. Starting with the decimals on the x-axis, let's strip them. Even the range of the y-axis is a little high. The values always add up to 100%, so we don't need 120%. We can get more real estate. In fact, we can move the legends on the bottom and that will make it even more legible. The grid lines are not doing any good here. We can get rid of them as well. Now that looks like a lot cleaner chart. In fact, we can also get rid of the y-axis line and add the x-axis line instead. And for the sake of simplicity, let's remove the data labels and thicken the chart width so that it's more legible. So this is now a cleaner chart and it looks a little pretty and easier to understand. But wait, where does this bring your attention to? What is the most important thing that you see here? I am attracted to these orange bars, which is highlighting the information that is just about right. Well, isn't that a just about wrong color to indicate the just about right information? So let's follow the step number 4 and improvise the chart onto the areas where we want to bring our attention. I've stripped down the colors as we follow the process, and we will discuss where do we want our audiences to bring their attention to. It could be on the just about the right section. We just want to talk about what is going well, or we want to focus upon what the users are saying about what is not enough, or there could also be something interesting that's going on the too much side. We may want to bring our attention there as well. So anything and everything can be right here. It will totally depend upon the narrative that you want to follow in your story. Moving on to the final step, that is step number 5, story, which is all about adding narratives, words, emphasizing the information and providing most importantly, providing the recommendation. This is how the story goes into the form of a presentation. We start by establishing the context. This is about the consumer feedback on Sainsbury yogurt. There were 100 consumers who participated in the tasting activity in December 21. They rated the yogurt on 6 different categories, and they provided their rating based on 3 parameters: not enough, just about right, and too much. So what does the data say? We plug in the data here and bring the attention to the things that are just about right. From that, most of the responders have said that the size and the sweetness of the yogurt is just about right, and we are doing pretty good with that. So let's just keep it as is. But there's more happening, and we've got some not so good feedback on a couple of categories as well. Particularly talking up to 50% and more people have said that the thickness of the yogurt, the amount of fruit, and the amount of yogurt are not up to the mark. Particularly, thickness and amount of fruit are a little too much, and the amount of yogurt is a little less. So we strongly recommend that our recommendation would be increase the amount of yogurt, decrease the fruit, and thereby you can reduce the thickness as well. So overall, by bringing these subtle changes, we can have a better consumer experience, and the product would be better adopted in the market. You see the difference if you had stopped at the step number 2 that we all normally do, versus following all the 5 steps of the data storytelling. This brings us the complete picture. It is clear, it is engaging, it brings out the right recommendation, very clearly called out and supported by the facts and figures in the chart. That's the power of data storytelling, and that's how we can leverage it to bring actions and compel users to make a change. So having said that, it brings us to the last part of the session, which is the key takeaways. What did we learn? Number 1, graphs, if well designed, get to the point faster across the tables. Number 2, eliminate all the clutter so that the data takes center stage. Remember, less is more effective, impactful, and attractive. Empathize with the data consumer. Understand the user persona. Connect the dots so that the audience knows how the elements are relative. Use narrative to help drive and inspire clear actions. With that, I've also added some certain references for you to go over. Thank you and happy data storytelling.